What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
You don't know what that order is, Mr. Trash. I'd show you, but I'm too old. I'm too tired. I'm too fucking blind. If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
A different topic. Since when does Vice President have what sounds like a Southern accent?
Better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is...
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that you
Same
think...
line
Okay, Peter,
that
let's...
she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a Southern drawl.
I mean,
What?
do you hear the question that you're... I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care... You know what they care about? They care about the economy. They care about lowering costs. They care about health care. That's what Americans care about.
So
That's what they want to
well,
hear.
this is something...
They care about... Your colleague just asked me about... What basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's what they care about. I'm not even going to entertain some question about the It's just hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
The question I'm talking about, the question is just insane.
Is that how she talks in meetings here?
I'm just... Peter, we're moving on. We're still moving on.
So once again, Peter Ducey broke the brain of Karine Jean-Pierre. This is Tim. Let's get off my lawn. The Mad Ramblings of a Gen Xer. Oh, we got a lot to talk about today, folks. Well, we're not a lot to talk about today, but we've got some stuff to talk about today. I love how we want to talk about the economy. I love we want to talk about those kitchen table issues. I love how we want to do that, but it's the perverse ideology that this administration has towards the economy. It's the perversion that Kamala Harris has in reference to how she wants to drive this economy that should scare the living bejesus out of everybody. You have multitudes of economists saying that anything that Kamala Harris wants to try, anything she wants to implement right now will probably cause greater inflation, will inflict more pain onto the average American while allowing the ruling class to sit there and drink their wine and toast to evil. It's just one of those things that if you think about this and you watch this, the chameleon Kamala Harris and the changing of her voice and her inflections, it's just the open dichotomy of what this party is. They'll just do anything. They'll lie. They'll say anything. They'll try anything. They'll do anything to get elected. And then once they get in the office, they just do whatever the hell they want to do. And I'm continuously hoping that the American public and the American people can see through this charade. Maybe it's because of the fact that Miss Harris did not get that bump that she thought she would have gotten after the DNC convention, that she's starting to trail again in multitudes of states, that this election should be on the merits of the candidates and what they can do to help the American people, and not with y'all want to do this and y'all want to do that. No, this should be how we can help the general. You know what's a great example? I always talk about auto insurance and how my auto insurance goes up about $300 a year for the last 3 years. So it's probably about $900 more than I was paying when Trump was in office. And every year I call the insurance company and say, hey, listen, you raised my rates again. I don't have any accidents. I don't have any tickets. No one in my house has any accidents or tickets in the last 20 years. But each year my insurance goes up. He's like, well, we need to subsidize for the bad drivers, and we need to subsidize for the parts and the laborers and everything that it costs to now fix automobiles. So those costs need to be passed on to the consumer. And I got my homeowner's insurance yesterday. Now, I've had COVID for the last 4 days. I probably still have COVID, but I got my I got my renewal for November for my homeowner's insurance policy. And I nearly fell over because it went up $1,000. 3 years ago, or I should say the Trump era, I was paying $1,100 for my insurance, for homeowners insurance. So, and we have a house that's fairly large, and so, you know, 4 years ago it was $1,000. It was $1,150 4 years ago. Then it went up to first year of Biden in office. It went up to $1,400. Then it went up another couple $100 a year before next year, and then this year I get the bill, and it's almost $1,000 more. And once again, I call the insurance company and say, "Hey, listen, insurance company, what's going on here?" Well, you know, it's the cost of housing. It's the cost of supplies. It's the cost of materials to rebuild houses if something happens. So once again, we have to pass those with the cost increase has to be passed on to the consumer, because these evil corporations need to stay in business so they could actually provide the insurance that we are required to have to own a property. And Karine and Jean-Pierre can sit there in their infinite wisdom and tell us, don't lecture us on these little things, that we want to talk about the kitchen table issues. Well, you know what? The 3.5 years that the Biden-Harris administration's been in office have caused these problems, have caused these issues, and it still befuddles me that people are sitting there going, well, she is going to fix all these problems. How can people vote for the idiot that caused these problems and think that she's going to have the plan to fix it? The Inflation Reduction Act, she cast the deciding vote, which increased inflation, which snuck in the Green New Deal. And I love the fact that she's pandering to unions right now. And I love how some of these auto workers are lapping it up. This is the same woman that wants to take everything and go electric. All trucks need to be electric by 2030. But now she says she never said that, even though we have miles of tape on it. And I love it because a Peterman or a Kenmore or Kenwood or whatever it is truck could cost you anywhere between diesel power cost you anywhere between $80,000 to $100,000. Now an electric truck, big rig, which has 2 batteries, which weigh 8,000 pounds apiece, which actually requires double of the amount of fuel or double the amount of energy, because you figure out this, you have to charge these batteries every day, and then you're expending these batteries, and you have to recharge the batteries again. So you're using the energy that you got from the power grid, which is then being supplied by nuclear or coal power. So technically you're using 3 separations of energy just to be electric and get half the distance. Well, one of these electric vehicles costs you about $500,000 right now. Think about it this way. You have to have 16,000 pounds on this truck just to power it to go down the street. Now, we never want to talk about the emissions from the tires. They did a scientific study. A lot of groups did. And I love how the fact that they don't want the Democrats want to shy away from those studies, that electric vehicles actually put off more noxious gases than a combustion-powered engine because of the pressure that is being put on the tires and the odor and the chemicals that are disseminating from the tires as that weight of the vehicle pushes down on the road with the friction and the moment it drives. So you're actually putting off more carbon monoxide with an electric vehicle just for the tires alone than you would for a gas-powered vehicle. But that's okay. We want the person that wrecked everything, she's going to come in here and fix it day one. What about the other 1,647 days? I wanted to talk about another lie you hear from the Biden administration. Oil leases. Gas and oil leases. We are trying to give these away. No one wants to take them. We have all these leases available. New oil leases and gas leases issued under the Biden administration so far is 671. Now, during the entire Trump administration, there was 4,975 oil and gas leases issued. The Bidens will talk about, and the Harris will talk about, well, we are producing our own energy. Well, when you only have 600 plus oil leases and natural gas leases, you're really not discovering any new energy. Now, the big question is that the Harris administration and the Biden administration will talk about the fact that the evil oil companies, those evil people, all they want to do is just make money. So they don't want to pay for these leases. They don't want to drill because they're making all these millions of dollars in profit by making sure that oil production is low enough, even though it's at its highest levels ever, that the American people will suffer. Those evil bastards. Well, there's a whole problem with this. And there's a whole reason and rationale why oil companies and natural gas companies aren't buying leases under the Biden-Harris administration. We're not discovering new natural resources. Because there's a little known lease, there's a little known clause or provision in these oil leases. It's referred to as the right to transport. Basically, what the right to transport means is you have to have the right of way or an ability to transport your natural gas or your crude oil off your property, either vis-a-vis a direct shipping company, vis-a-vis a pipeline. You have to have some ability to transport whatever your product is, like I said, the unrefined crude oil or the natural gas, off wherever you're refining it. Well, there's a little problem here. there's an issue here. Because the U.S. Department of Transportation, working with the EPA, a lot of times what happens is they block these oil companies. They block their right to transport. Now, what happens is you'll have these environmental groups, and they will wait till a organization, an oil company, or someone purchases a lease, and they're going to get ready to go into production, and they hit them with a lawsuit telling them how they're going to destroy the environment by either building a road or a pipeline to get their oil or natural gas off the rig. So what happens is these groups tie up these lease. They don't tie up the lease. They tie up this section of the lease, which is the right to transport. And they tie it up with the EPA and the Department of Transportation. Looking at you, Pete Buddha. And they'll sit there and say, the U.S. DOT announces comprehensive proposal rulemaking for the safe transportation of crude oil flammable materials, which you can find on their website. So what happens is they don't block the purchase of the oil lease. These environmental protection groups and the U.S. Department of Transportation, they block the company's ability to move their product, their unrefined oil or natural gas, off their property or away from their facility and move it into a plant that will either, of course, refine the crude oil or do whatever they do with natural gas. So they file these lawsuits saying that these groups file these lawsuits that says it's going to destroy the environment if they build this.
All right, explain this to me like I'm a 2-year-old, okay? Because there's an element to this thing I just cannot get through my thick head.
So it makes sense that companies, oil companies and natural gas companies aren't purchasing leases because even if you purchase a lease, you have no way to get your product basically to market. And that's vis-a-vis the U.S. Department of Transportation. That's how crazy this society is. I am for the unions. I am for the unions and the automakers of America. Even though the batteries and the vehicles that you're going to have to drive are made in China or Japan or overseas. I'm for exploration of oil, but we've only sold 600 leases compared to almost 5,000 because of the fact that if you buy a lease, we're going to use the EPA and the U.S. Department of Transportation and block your ability to move your product. That's how crazy these people fucking are. And you have lapdogs out there that still will tell you how wonderful Harris is, but they'll have no idea what she even stands for because of the fact that she still hasn't put anything on her website. This is the mindlessness that we have with some people. And I love it because people are like, well, we need her because she's just different. She's a newbie. She's just different. She's going to bring in a fresh perspective. She's been in government for the last 20 years and been the vice president for the last 3.5. She is the ultimate insider. Yes, I don't know. It's unbelievable the thought process that some people have in reference to her. She was voted the most liberal senator. She was voted one of the least popular vice presidents ever. But somehow now, with her ability to sleep with multitudes of men to get her way. Oh, I'm sorry. Rumored, even though Judge Joe Brown and Mayor Willie Brown came out and said it was all true, and Willie Brown wrote a book about it. But that's all right. That's okay. It's all good. You got to wake up, people. You really do. If you really want to live in a socialist society where you can't afford it. I love how they talk about the cost of Medicare and Medicaid and the cost of insurance. You caused the fucking problem. It's called Obamacare. It's called the Affordable Care Act. I'm still waiting for my $2,500 a month that I'm going to fucking save. I'm just assuming because it's the government, the check got lost in the mail. Sometimes you got to just pause them. Sometimes you have to refer to what they're refer to. I can't talk. Like I said, I had COVID. Sometimes you have to have what they refer to as a sewer, which is a long, dramatic pause. Because anyone votes for Harris and Walz, you are literally going to put this country in ruins. We will be Venezuela. Well, that's okay. Because you know what? The mindlessness of our society and this upcoming generations is just kind of mind-blowing. Of course, I am the mad ramblings of a Gen Xer. And I blame it all on Pickeball. Yeah, I blame this whole shit on Pickeball. Pickleball, which is this which isn't up and coming sport, it's been going on for a while now. But pickleball, which is I guess they deem it as a sport. It's like tennis, but it's not tennis. And it's basically for those that are unathletic enough to play tennis or just don't have any skills at all. And this way they can have a sport. Now, if you go back, pickleball was invented, I guess it was created like years ago. Like in the 60s, I believe. But it was invented for geriatrics. This is the society. This is the everyone gets a trophy, the society that we live in now, that they had to take a sport which was invented for geriatrics so they could literally have some way to move their bodies and keep everything from going crazy. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like wiffle ball. You know, wiffle ball is that ball where you play with the plastic bat and you have you have the little plastic ball, and it's like baseball, but it's not like baseball, but it's just one of those things that you just do. And I love it because they try to talk about how pickleball is this big thing and how this has been going on for years, and how when it was invented as, I love it because you go to the Wikipedia and talk about the invention of pickleball. And they talk about how, it just kills me because it's just lies. And it's always lies because of the fact that, like I said, it was invented basically for geriatrics back in the 1960s. To help them, help to keep their bodies fresh and moving and, keep everything flowing. But, it's just, I don't know. We reached this part of society where we have a generation now. You have the Gen Z and Gen Y kids coming up now, and they've just gone an entirely different route because they've gone into the thing where you no longer have the ability to deal with any type of adversity. You no longer, everyone has to be special. And that's the problem with the internet as well. Everyone has to have a voice. Everyone has to be special. Everyone has to be heard. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. Not everyone's special. Not everyone gets heard. Not everything's fair. That's why it's socialism. Socialism talks about how everyone doesn't start at the same way. You know, Kamala Harris talking about how not everyone starts at the same spot in life, but everyone should end up in the same place. That's called socialism. And I think the ultimate dichotomy between socialism and this generation is pickleball, because it's a sport that's not a sport. It's a sport that everyone can play, so everyone can be happy. And it's a sport where everyone wins because you're just participating. Sometimes it just makes you want to scratch your fucking head. Oh, it was a lot of fun today. Hopefully I can go a little longer. Oh, I should say.
That's what she said.
Because of the fact that my voice is killing me, but the truth shall always set you free. This is Dennis Goffman along the Mad Ramblings of a Gen Xer, and I'm out of here.